Welcome to Sergel's first Nordic live talks.
This time to focus on AI and sustainability, two areas that are highly prioritized by most companies today. And by Nordic Talks, we changed the format to include all of you from Denmark, Finland, Norway and Sweden online and live here at the Sergel Stockholm office. My name is Christian Hagegård and I will be your moderator today. And normally I work as head of marketing here at Sergel and I love building strong relationships with brands and people. And by this I mean sharing is caring. This is what we're going to do today. With events like this, we're not only going to talk about things that are important, but also meet and share thoughts and ideas that build the future for a great business relationship. Without further delay, please welcome CEO and founder of Odash, AI visionary and serial entrepreneur, Arli Mujkic.
Hello everybody, thank you for that amazing intro, Christian. Very happy to be here and speaking in front of you and in front of everybody over link. So we're here to talk a little bit of about AI, so let's just deep dive in directly. So see if this clicker should be working. So we'll be covering in these 40 minutes 5 topics. This is the agenda. Short introduction to me and our company, so you know who's in front of you speaking. And then a bigger picture of AI, where we are today with AI, where we're going in 2024 and how to get going now. And last but not least, also the challenges of AI. So let's just deep dive in. So a little bit about me. I sometimes start from the right side. I've been in tech for 30 years. I've been lucky enough to start coding early enough. So 1994, I'm originally from Bosnia. I came to Sweden, so I grew up here in Sweden. I got introduced to the computers for the first time here. Thank you, Sweden, for that. And as it was in the forefront, as it still is, when it comes to being very competitive in the digital landscape. So I actually started coding because, as my kids, you start playing games, and then I got very curious about how to build my own games. So that's how I landed into the world of programming at the age of 7 with QBasic. Actually downloaded the source code for Snake, if you all remember back in the day, in QBasic, and studied it. But the way I started was a little bit different because as we just arrived, my parents couldn't afford a computer at that point, so I actually had to start coding on pen and paper at home, and then I was typing everything in school 3 times a week until I got my first game going. And after that, the school kind of noticed it as all the kids started playing it. It said made by Arli Mujkic on the screen, so it wasn't so hard to figure out, as there are not a lot of Arli Mujkic yet today. And school was amazing because then they supported with a computer, so I could actually continue coding after that. So been coding for a long time. We fast forward 7 years, and there I went from 2D games, 2D development, to 3D games and 3D development. That's when I started my first company at the age of 14. Trivision 3D LLC in the US, together with Sylvain Dupont and John Hart, which was a 3D software development kit. So quite advanced programming already at 14. And we kind of started as a hobby project, which was a little bit funny because you don't think about selling software when you're 14. It's just a hobby. But we ended up creating a company out of it, thanks to John, and started selling licenses. And that's how I started making my first money on software. I even have my first green check, $500 check from the US, still saved. So that's a little bit of a funny story. After that, I continued on, made my first exit when I was 19, and then became a serial entrepreneur. That I really knew at that point that I could really combine my passion of tech into also making it into a living, and that's what I've been doing ever since, being a serial tech entrepreneur, basically paving the way up until today. So today, 2023 and forward, as we founded Odash, I devote my next 30 years, as I sometimes say, into the future, which is focusing on AI and the future of technology. So that's a little bit short of on my background. So Odash, we're a Nasdaq-listed software as a service company, and we traded here in Stockholm on First North, but also in Setra, Frankfurt, and Stuttgart Börse. And yeah, we focus on working with companies when it comes helping them with their AI setup, data, infrastructure, vision, mission, strategy, and so on. So This is what we offer. We work with expert services. We have our own data lakehouse. We work with Query Gateway, which is our API to access unstructured, semi-structured, unstructured data if in your company through a structured way, leveraging AI. It gets a little bit technical, but in short, then we have a business intelligence platform on top of that, which makes it very easy for people to talk to their data, basically. So you can imagine if you have all of these different systems that you have today in the company, connecting them. We have support for over 300 different data sources, connecting them to one place. It goes through our secret sauce, the magic that we do, putting it into our vector databases with metadata, then allowing you basically to build your dashboards, talk to it by using simple AI chat, for example, asking it, what are the most active periods when broken down by hour in the company, and then you get a nice graph because it understands what you want from all of your data. So that's a little bit what we do and our platform. Let's dive right in. So AI, what is AI? Just to give that first very, very simple definition. Basically, it's the machine's ability to mimic a human. That's it. It's not harder than that. But what does that really mean if we boil it down? What makes us human? It's to being able to learn, understand, reason, plan, and solve problems, right? So a computer, up until, if we remove the artificial intelligence, and the computer can only do what you instruct it to do. You tell it an algorithm, or you build a program, etc. Artificial intelligence is about it becoming more like us, which is taking on problems as they come, learning from your own mistakes, learning from others' mistakes, and being able to reason and plan and solve those problems along the way. So that's really what AI is about. And we're moving very fast, so I'm going to go a little bit brief into the history. So AI has been here. It goes way back, right? So if we talk about Alan Turing, which sometimes is known as the grandfather of modern computer science, right? He already published the computing machinery and intelligence, and we also, maybe many of you know about the Turing test, which is the way that we perform tests today to see if a computer or an artificial intelligence is a computer, or if it's thinking like a human. So that goes way back, right? So it's been around for quite some time. But if we kind of go through these steps, what has happened since then is that 1997, we had the first person to lose their job to an AI, which was Grand Chess Master Kasparov, right? He lost to Deep Blue, and that was a big, big moment. So I think, all of this fear about people talking about will we lose our jobs or not, etc. I mean, Kasparov is embracing AI, even though he was the first one to lose his job to it. And I think that's kind of funny to think about. I mean, and that goes back to 97, right? And if we make another leap to 2016, we'll see that it became quite more, because AlphaGo versus Lee Sedol, so the champion when it comes to Go, also lost at this. And why is this interesting? Because Go has more combinations in the game than we have atoms in the visible universe. And that's quite interesting to see, because then it's already was on a very high computational level when it came to the neural networks of how it's thinking and getting closer and closer to being more human. And as I mentioned before, what is AI? It is its ability to think like a human. After that came the very, very famous 2017 paper, Attention is All You Need. And this is really what catapulted us forward. Because up until that point, we've been building what's called neural networks. And this is how our brain works. We have neural network pathways, and that's what we have been trying to build in the computer brain, so to speak. And there was a big problem with that for a long time, and it was memory, right? So when you put in a lot of text, the computer would start to forget kind of what was in the beginning. An example of that is if somebody says, or I would tell it, I grew up in Sweden, I like to play tennis, I like to play the guitar, spend time with my family, and talk about it, and I'm fluent in. And now the AI should be able to, fluent in this language, and the AI should be able to predict what the next word is, because AI is only predicting what the next word is, right? The former first versions of neural networks were not able to do that if the context became too long, because it would forget kind of what was in the beginning, because it was like a goldfish, so to speak. So what transformers really did was to, make that goldfish into more of a young person's ability, right? This is saying that, okay, let's increase the memory span. So then it was suddenly able to predict and say, look, I've told it all about these things, and I'm fluent in, and it could actually say Swedish, because it understood that I grew up in Sweden. Even though I told it a bunch of other things, it knew what would come. And this is what Transformers really wrote about 2017, but it was all theoretical, and it was Google researchers that did it. And it's a little bit funny because Google is not the forefront leading on AI today, but they wrote a big study on Transformers. And it's really because these guys in Google, when they wrote it, they thought, we got this and nobody else got this, because we wrote it. So we don't have to hurry, right? But what was happening is that there was a lot of other smart people around in the world, as there are, that really read this study and said, maybe we can do something out of it. So OpenAI started introducing the Transformers into their work, kind of a little bit under the radar initially. And then suddenly, as we say, the fast pace of generative, then 2020 OpenAI released the GPT-3. And this is where increased interest in the large language models started to come, but mostly from the tech-savvy people, right? But then 2021, we started to see text-to-image models. So all of these images started showing up, even in professional media outlets, but also on social media. So people started buzzing about it and saying, wow, AI can really generate some really cool images. That's good and bad, because it can generate some cool stuff, but it can also create, dangerously detailed fake images and so on. So this is how kind of it started coming out into the public face and public side. So into the public domain. So what then happened really is, and I think we all hopefully know about it, is 2022 OpenAI launches then ChatGPT 3.5. And this is when we say then suddenly, right? This is the iPhone moment of AI. It's like Jensen, which is the CEO of NVIDIA. And NVIDIA, you might know it as a graphic processor, graphic cards for playing games, but it's actually the GPUs are used to train the AI models, right? We are in the beginning of the iPhone moment. And it's a little bit funny because I've been saying exactly the same thing at the same time when it released, and I think many people have been saying the same thing. But if you think about it, it's just as when Apple and the iPhone changed the smartphone market, OpenAI with ChatGPT 3 changed the way we think about and use AI. So people started quickly realize that it's here to stay and that it's not science fiction anymore. It's not something you see in the movies, So there is a moment before the iPhone and there is a moment after the iPhone. I think everybody here remembers the moment before iPhone. So this is a little bit where we are at today with AI. So we could not foresee how the iPhone would change our lives, but we knew that it would. Many of us saw that we knew that this is going to be a game changer. Today, looking back, we can see in all of the aspects it has done that, right? Through job, through work, through on the personal, social level, etc. So I believe that looking back in 10 years in the same way, we'll be able to see, okay, we knew that something would change, but in 10 years we'll really be able to see and say, this has had great impact. A little bit interesting. So the incredible quick adoption rate, we have seen nothing like it so far, right? So if we look at how long time it took ChatGPT to reach 1 million users, it took it 5% of time it took Instagram to reach 1 million users. And Instagram was a company that was sold for $1 billion with, 15 employees or something like that. So we're talking about something that feels very magical for people in a way, because you're talking to something, you're asking it to help something, and you just don't know how can it do this, right? So you go back and back and back because there is just something there. So we have to think about that a little bit for a minute. I mean, it reached 1 million users very, 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 very fast. Nothing like compared to the other platforms or softwares we have seen out there. And 1 year later now in November, we see over 100 million active users on the platform per week. Not per month, per week. That's amazing. We're talking only ChatGPT, not other services, not Microsoft Copilot, nothing else. We're talking only ChatGPT. So there is something there. With this kind of traction, that means that we are here in an era, iPhone moment, as I mentioned, something big is going on, and we can all feel it and we can all see it. Now the question is, what can we do with it, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So, where are we today? The smart AI is already here, and it will only get smarter, as I mentioned. So it's not a question if, it's a question of when. Is it 6 months? Is it 18 months? It all depends really when ChatGPT wants to release their new version. But if we look at Terence Tao, for example, Terence Tao is one of the leading mathematicians in the world today. with awards won all across the globe for his knowledge in maths and what he has brought to the table, to that segment. William James Sidis is often known as the smartest man that ever lived, right? He knew to speak over 25 languages. And if we compare that to GPT-4 and even Gemini, we can really see that the amount of languages they're able to handle the AIs today. And we're just 1.5 years in from the launch of ChatGPT 3.5. But not to mention the amount of books it has read. We are already at an unbelievable level where we look at, AI versus genius. Where are we going with this, right? And there's a saying also that this is the worst it will ever be. So it will only get better from this on, right? So it's an interesting thing that you can also run AI on your local computers, for example, today quite easily. So if I would run up my computer and ask it to process some books, it can actually read in less than 24 hours more books than I can read in my whole lifetime. But it's still, remember, it's just a tool. So it really becomes out of AI what you can do out of AI, right? So this is also something that we will talk about. But why are people talking about it so much today? Well, it's obvious. Anything that has such great impact, people will be talking. Anything that feels so magical as it does, we will be talking about it, right? The potentials are huge. I mean, we're looking at it bringing into the economy $2.6 to $4.4 trillion per year. This is the estimates today. And they keep on growing because there are new and new things coming out every day in AI. So, and the interesting thing is that I think that this second sentence is even more interesting, is that if we introduced AI into existing processes, existing companies, existing software systems, we could double that impact. So that means that we are looking at all of the new AI companies coming, all the new AI things that we will be doing. But if we could also start integrating AI into all of the existing stuff we're doing, we could really, really see a huge impact. So what does that mean? I mean, AI technology is set out to automate 60 to 70% of all working activities, which is a huge amount if you think about that a little bit. So all working time globally, all working activities globally, 60 to 70%. So go, okay, what will I do with all that free time, right? So there will be some kind of offset in a lot of the working activities we do. Not necessarily in the work that people will be replaced, but we will be working differently, we believe. But we're also looking that we will reach half of that. So this is a general technology estimate over time, but a decade earlier than we previously predicted. So that means that we will be reaching half of these activities, somewhere 30 to 35% already in the very near time. We're talking somewhere between 2030 and 2060. So let's say 2040, 2045, 35% of global all work activity will be automated by AI. And that's something to really think about a little bit. So things will change. In what way? It really is a little bit in our hands, but it is coming. It's being done already. Let's do a quick audience check. So a question, how do you think that generative AI will affect the workforce in your company in the next 5 years? So you can raise hands when I point. Number 1, not at all. Anybody thinks it's not going to affect nothing in 5 years? That's what I thought. Nobody. Online, I don't know, but probably nobody's raising there. But the more interesting question is the second two ones, right? Who believes that we will hire more people because of AI in the workforce where they're working today? Hands up. Okay. And then the third one, who believes we will reduce the number of coworkers? So more people think we will reduce the number of coworkers. So there is actually a study made on this, on a Strato study that asked these questions. And what I think is really interesting here is that 75% of people think it will not change anything or they don't know. 75%, that's a huge amount. So it's so new that people still don't know, but we know it's going to do something, but there's still a lot of people that believe that it's not going to do anything at all. I mean, we know it's going to, but a lot of, in general, people don't believe anything else. So there is still a maturity coming when it comes to the information trickling out there throughout the companies. And what I think is funny in this, interesting in this study is that 75% nothing at all or I don't know. And then let's look at the quite new news coming out from Klarna just on the 4th of March, saying that their AI assistant is now doing the job of 700 people. That's 15 to 20% of their work activity. Remember we said it's going to be reaching somewhere globally 60 to 70%. We believe maybe 35% if we introduce it in existing company processes. Well, they're on the good way. So there are plenty of other companies we're doing. They're one of these leaders that are already starting to do it, obviously, because they're a tech company as well. But if you think about AI in all of the existing companies, there's a lot of things that are going to be happening. So on top of that, if we look, did you know that only 25% of Swedish companies invest in generative AI compared to 43% globally? Which is a little bit interesting because Sweden, and I think in Nordics in general, third most competitive country in the world when it comes to digital competency. Third. But we're investing almost half in AI because 75% people don't think anything is going to change. I don't know if it's why, but that's why we are here to talk about it. Because it is here to change things around. And there is still a lot of room to do quite some exciting things because only 25% of companies today are investing into AI. So yeah. The point of this being is today, the large language models, as they're called, the AI models that have really catapulted this, they're smarter than we think. They're much, much smarter than what people think. But it's still a tool. So again, I said it's the worst it will ever be, but unless you know how to use it, it will not be much more than what you make out of it, right? So that's also an important thing to understand. So we might be at almost a human expert level, right? And we will be surpassing that with GPT 4.5 and 5 whenever they release it, if it's now in this year or next year. But the point here today is that it's already smarter than we think. That's a little bit what I want you to go away with. But it's really not more than what you make out of it, right? It's very hard to imagine where we'll be just in a couple of years, right? So if we think about that, I wanted to, on this slide, when it comes to a study, they took the 700 best of the best experts at Boston Consulting Group, and they increased their performance using AI with an average of 38%. So it's really out to get us all. I mean, nobody's safe. You can be the expert in the best of the best, or you can be not the expert in the best of the best. It doesn't really matter. So even the best of the best increased their efficiency by using it. And we added here three simple tasks, which I think 99% of people in the audience and on the link are probably doing every day or at least weekly at their work, which is writing some kind of draft, summarizing maybe some kind of meeting, and searching for information. And if we look at just these three tasks, where there's been a lot of study made, and you also see using, for example, Microsoft Copilot, we're looking at a time saving of 44 minutes, right? That's quite a bit. That's already quite a bit. Doesn't sound like a lot, but if you think it's the worst it will ever be, and you think where we got after only after 1 year, these 44 minutes can pretty quickly turn into 440 minutes, and so on and so on. So that's the whole point. Same thing like an iPhone moment. This is cool, I can pinch and zoom in on web pages because that was a cool feature back in the day. The websites weren't responsive, right? So one of the key elements was zooming in on a web page and being able to do that. But today everything is adapted for the smartphone, and we're using it in a completely different way than what we thought was really cool in the beginning. So these are the lowest hanging fruits of what can be done. And as I said, the best of the best, even when they are using it, they're still saving time. So yeah, that's a little bit where we are today. Next topic will be about 2024. So get going now and how, right? So, when to start with AI? There's a Chinese proverb that says, when is the best time to plant a tree? It's 20 years ago. What's the second best time? It's now. So we have an Odash saying that says, when is the best time to start using AI? Well, it was before ChatGPT, but the second best time is now. It's really the same thing, right? So the point of it being, you can't build a house without the foundation first, right? So you have to first start looking at educating yourself within AI. So this is really understanding what can it do for us. I showed you a couple of easy tasks, but there's a lot of information out there. So it's first of all going out and grabbing that information and educating yourself on, because AI is only a tool. So whoever is worried that AI will replace humans, it's not going to replace humans anytime soon, but humans using AI will replace other humans. And this is also something to think about. So it's really starting on thinking about how can we as an organization and you as every individual start by educating yourself to understand it and then to really work from there. Again, to build a house, you start with the foundation, right? Also important is to dig where the gold is, not where the light is, as they also say. So I would say that look at where the largest return of investments are, potentials in your companies, in your lives, where AI can be as well. I mean, it doesn't have to be only in work. And also look at what are the most important improvements you maybe are already doing and deciding on in the company. Because, as I mentioned before, implementing AI in existing processes, existing software, can double the impact. So question is, can AI be maybe used there? You know? So, can we ask questions? Yeah, sure.
Which industry or industries do you think will be mostly affected short term from AI? In which industries, like the Nordics, where will we see a big impact?
Well, what we can see today, one of the biggest impacts we're seeing is, for example, with on the customer support side, as one, for example, with Klarna handling a lot of big volumes of customer support. But we do have, for example, where you can get going now and how within different departments and everything from HR to project management and to software engineering, for example. So I think that it will be affecting quite broadly. And we will go in a little bit of concrete examples of what we think will be, what we think could be good starting points from our point. But yeah, this is, you know, if there's already projects within the company you decided to do, maybe AI can be used there. This is a little bit to think about as well. It doesn't have to be a completely new project, right? So it's also important to think about if many parts of the organization take a single step in their own part, you move forward as a whole, right? So a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and I think this is important. It doesn't have to be this huge project. It's just enough to start somewhere and start doing something, right? So starting small and showing proof, it motivates. I sometimes say it's kind of like, you know, you want to get in better shape. The first step is to go buy a gym membership. And then you have it, and then you're paying it, and you say, okay, now I have to go. And you go one time, and then, okay, oh, do I really have to go 2 or 3 times? I don't want to. But then you start seeing maybe some muscle, maybe you start feeling better. You suddenly see I'm not out of air when I go up the stairs, two staircases. Maybe I will go one more time, and maybe I will go one more time. So it really is finding those proof of the projects where you're using AI. It's not the scale, it's really the motivation and, of course, the finances and the data logic behind to invest in those projects. So really how to get started, we say think big, start small, and scale fast. And with the proven case in hand, then you can make it omnipresent in the organization in several places with small. So we also say sometimes nail it and then scale it, right? So make sure you start somewhere and start doing something. And maybe looking at parts where you have already ongoing decisions, and can we integrate AI there in somehow? So we have 4 examples of Get Going Now. We took in general 4 different departments, so to speak. Let's say executive leadership. So what you can do is to define your AI strategy and vision, which we have been working, for example, with Sergel on doing. And then you can, you know, assess your current capabilities. Really, this is also going back a little bit to the education part and looking at, okay, so we can define it, or find somebody to help you define it, and then assess your capabilities of being able to do that. And then, you know, promote cross-department collaboration. So once one department says, okay, we want to do something with AI, look at maybe there's some other department that can also start doing it. So again, think big, start small, and then scale it. If we look at an example from an HR perspective, it's very, very important, as I said, the foundation. Without the foundation, you cannot build a house. So HR should be pushing out AI literacy, culture of AI, removing anxiety about AI, removing the feeling that will AI replace me? and going out and say, okay, we don't intend to replacing people with AI. We want to educate you in AI and becoming really a company that is using AI to increase our performance, efficiency, and so on and so on. So to do that, you have to invest in the teams. You have to invest in the people in the company through culture, data literacy, but also to build skilled teams, right? Maybe there are some people in your companies that have an extra passion for AI and would like to be part of an AI team to figure out what could we use AI for in our company. You have to find also those stars that might be leading the company forward. They will be spending a lot of time probably also outside of working hours reading up, thinking about how can we use AI in our company, because it's a very interesting and exciting topic, and there's a lot of people out there that find it so fascinating that they would like to be in a special, let's say, AI team or skill team. So that's something that also from HR perspective could be done and set up. And of course to promote diversity and inclusion in AI teams, so having different perspectives. So let's not just put engineers in the AI team and say, hey, you go and think about what we can do with AI. Bring everybody in. Let everybody have their say. This is very important. Otherwise, you're just going to get back and say, we're going to change our database to this. And okay, what will that do? Yeah, we can do some cool stuff now with it because data is now stored in an AI database. Okay, but what does that mean for our business? We don't know. But it's really cool to store it like that. Okay, so you have to have all aspects of it, right? So this diversity in the AI team is very, very important, right, for building up. And of course, IT and data management. Develop a data strategy. So going back to this database, which I was joking a little bit about, but also is looking at where do we store our data, how do we store it. As I mentioned before, our data lakehouse, for example, we are focused on being GDPR with on-premise server hosting, GDPR, secure, abiding by all laws and so on, and we store structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data. That doesn't say a lot, right? It's really how you use it afterwards. So you have to have something else on top of that. What do you want to integrate to that? Do you want an AI letter answering service? Or do you want an AI customer service chatbot? Do you want an AI dashboard for your partners? There has to be a product somewhere. But it all starts with having data stored somewhere in a proper way that's also secure. So really get going with your IT and data management to think about and develop a strategy. And developing a strategy can just be putting it on paper to have it as a first step. Remember that gym membership I said to buy? The first step, getting the strategies and ideas down on paper into a document is a good first step. And then you can decide when we execute what we execute. Of course, selecting the right technology and right partners is very important as well. So I would say to not rush into that, really take your time to look into who is a good fit for your company. Partners, as we know, are very important. Once you go in together with a partner, you have to look at it as a long-term relationship. So that's, of course, a very important part. And then, of course, establish governance and ethical guidelines. So what kind of data do we store? I mean, today in company systems, you have a bunch of different systems. So what should we store? Maybe there are things we don't need to store just for the sake of it, right? So again, going back and putting this down into plans and paper, writing it down. So, and last but not least, project management. Pilot projects, as I mentioned, maybe there are pilot projects or other projects you're doing. Maybe one of those could be an AI pilot project. Or whatever it is, we're improving our logistic process. Okay, can we add AI in that? Maybe there's another 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, 5% to shave off on cost or increase bottom line or whatever it is. Getting that motivation of doing things, it's really important. And then scale and integrate after that, right? So coordinate the expansion of successful AI applications. If you see that we can save 3% on a small department in Sweden, but it's a bigger company, then you start rolling it out in several places. And of course, data. So to monitor, measure, and refine always is very, very important. So a little bit about the challenges of AI and challenges of potential in the future, right? So to talk about that as well, I think that's an important topic. So ethical and societal impact. There's a lot of talk about this, and I think it's a very important topic, addressing bias, privacy, and the divide in AI that exists. People are very worried about the ethical side of it, and I don't have the answers for that. I only know it is a real topic, and it's a topic we need to discuss. It's like when internet came out, there was no laws about internet. So today we have a bunch of laws on internet, so it will come, but it is important to discuss those topics and think about those topics to see how we can mitigate any issues and find solutions, right? AI and job displacement is a very big thing. There are a lot of people going around and being worried that they will be replaced by AI. So again, going back to, for example, education within the organization to remove that anxiety and say, we don't intend to replace people with AI, but we want our people to be using AI as it's just a tool. So we want us to become better at that. And then, of course, global inequities. So the uneven distribution of AI benefits. There are places in the world, of course, that have more access to infrastructure than others. And so, this is also a challenge in the future. How can we develop the whole world towards a more AI-compatible future? So there's a very interesting, Goldman Sachs predicted that 300 million people will be somehow offsetting their job by AI by the coming 5 years. 300 million people. That's a lot. That's so much that will that initiate riots? Will that initiate political changes, laws changes? What will happen? We don't really know, but there's a lot of things going on right now with that. So it's very important also to think about those challenges, right? Of course, security and privacy, enhancing your AI system to prevent attacks. I already met a couple of people that got phone calls in the voice of their daughter or in the voice of their mother saying, I'm somewhere, can you please send me money, etc., etc. And they were super freaked out by that. So it's really, again, going back to this awareness that, AI is here, it will do a lot of good, but it can also do a lot of harm. But it's the same way like when the internet came. It can do a lot of good, but it can also do a lot of harm. Same thing with the iPhone. So we cannot stop the development of technology forward, in my belief, but we have to discuss the potential problems that can arise out of it to be able to really find solutions, laws, mitigate problems, and so on. Regulation and governance. So EU is regulating a lot, as we know. And there are talks about everywhere in the world how to regulate it. But again, going back, we don't really know how it will be regulated, but that it has to be in many ways. That is a fact. And dependency of autonomy. So maintaining human oversight. I think this is very important for quite some time going in the future now. Right, so that's some of the challenges in the future on when it comes to data security. Integration, implementation challenges. The last one I would say here to go through. Overcoming obstacles in adapting AI into existing systems and workflows. Data quality and availability is also very important, as I mentioned before. Is the data there? If it's not there, there's not so much to do. So maybe the first step is to make sure that data is coming in and that's there, but also relevant data. Let's not just maybe pour in everything and give the AI everything if that's not something we want, right? So things to think about. You can make it easy for you to say, we have all this data, let's just put it in the AI. But the question is, do we need to put everything in the AI? That's also something to think about. And explainability and transparency. So making the AI decision process more clear to know really in the end who made that decision. Was it you? Was it the AI? Was it us together? We have to know, because in the end, if you start acting on decisions, there's nothing wrong in making bad decisions, but you have to know if there was bad decisions made, who made them, so that you can go back, figure out, and really come to the root cause of that, and then kind of reiterate, right? If we just let everything to the AI, that kind of loses as well. So, perfect. We're just about to wrap up on time. Good. 3 key takeaways from today I want to mention just really quickly. Think big, as I mentioned. Start small and scale fast. Or sometimes easy to say, nail it and then scale it. Take that gym membership, start somewhere. And then you will see you get motivated more and more. The second one is start now, not later, as I mentioned. Don't wait. This will develop, things will change, but start now with something. Look, there's Microsoft Copilot, there are some services we can help you in your daily work to save some time on drafting that email or maybe summarizing that meeting or searching for some information. And already there you will start to see some data back. And also, as I mentioned, only 25% have started. So starting now means you're a little bit ahead of the curve. Still. And last but not least, education and literacy, and competency about AI. Build that competency, build that knowledge and know-how within your organization around AI. maybe have an AI event like Sergel is doing, which I think is amazing. Maybe have somebody to come there speak about it. Make something, introduce it. So that's a little bit from me, and if you want to stay ahead with AI, feel free to reach out or come up and have a little bit speak. And thank you very much for your time and listening.
Arli, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question for you.
Yes.
In the 80s, the first search engines appeared, but it was more of an experiment or a mistake derived from other things. And that developed into more modern versions. We saw Yahoo, and eventually we got Google. And Bing still trying to push their way in, but nobody wants it. So Google, it works, right? Now we have ChatGPT, and it's 3.5 and 4, and that's taking more and more place. When will they change the name? It's so hard to say all the time.
I know.
I mean, you spent about 5% of the presentation just saying that word.
Yeah.
No, I saw Gemini. Is that the next?
Gemini is coming from Google. So if we look at going back to search engines, I think this is very interesting. I used Alta Vista to download the source code for Snake the game in QBasics. So that's where I started. And Alta Vista doesn't exist today, but at the same time, it was still and still is close to my heart because that's how I started going in, and things will change. How we search for today will, in my belief, definitely change. Gemini with Google, we're looking at ChatGPT. They don't have their own search engine, but Microsoft Bing is using that. I think that the search will become more like a chat, but you're going back to the same place. You will go to Google still, probably, in my belief, but you're not going to search and look at those 10 results and maybe click the next page and try to see it, but rather that it comes up directly with the answers where you need, which also opens a lot of other questions about how do we start and change our marketing so that we become relevant and come into that answer. Search engine optimization will completely change, so the marketing agencies will need to adapt, and everybody will need to change. But yeah, I think that's a very good comparison to going from search engines, and that it is in a way, many ways, a tool to search for information, and that it will start to integrate within the search engines deeper and deeper.
Another comparison I sometimes do when we're talking about smartphones. If you remember, there were a couple of smartphones before iPhone. Yeah. They were not that good. No. We had some Nokias, and I had an HTC. Yeah. We could whop with it and maybe read one page of newspaper at a time. Yeah. Then iPhone came around. That was great. Now it's time to welcome our panelists. First up is Pamela Clark, Head of Business Development here at Sergel. Welcome. And we also have Henrik Lönnevi, CEO of Kivra. I want to add, you're also chairman of Goodale. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later when you're back on sustainability. So, first impression about the presentation. Want to start, Henrik?
Really inspiring and great to get a full walkthrough of all the aspects of AI. So thanks a lot, Arli.
Yeah, I tried to put everything in there for 40 minutes, but glad you appreciate it.
And Pamela, you've been working with Sergel now for almost a year as head of business development.
Yeah.
It's close to a year. How would you say that your work here has changed over that time?
Well, I don't know that much if it has changed, but one thing which is very clear, and that comes from the presentation from Arli today, speed. Speed is the most important thing, because if we don't think about speed, what we are doing ahead of us, and ensuring that we focus on the right things and continue to develop, I don't think that we will be here. So I would say what has changed is the matter to get into the organization sense of urgency and speed for the future.
And would you say that's something you brought with you from your previous roles in business development?
Absolutely. And I know what you're going to ask next, I think. What is your experience from before, and what are you bringing in? Well, I come from a complete different industry before. I have not been close to the finance industry and credit industry. I've been working a lot with customer journey and digital transformation within the tourism industry, as well as the IT industry previously. And one of the key things that or actually a few of the key things, is speed there as well. Because as you know, I heard someone here, actually Arli, you came, yesterday with Lufthansa strike.
Yeah.
Flexibility. What are we doing when you have a lot of strikes? What are you doing when there's a lot of things happening around in the world? Well, you have to stay flexible. And you need to ensure that you constantly look at the overall world, what's happening, and adapt to that. So with that said, I would say what I'm bringing in is the flexibility, the speed, and the importance of digital transformation. And that's what I would say. I've been part of, for you who remembers, and maybe some of you who attended our event in October. I'm not that old, but I've been part of, you remember the old shops that you could go into and buy a trip, talk to someone over the counter. Well, where do you find any shops today? They're all gone. Everything is online. So I've been part of building up that infrastructure as well as the new shop. And the important thing there to bring with you when you build up that shop, how is the customer moving? What are the needs? How do they behave? And how do we adapt to that? With digital transformation as well as internal in the organization.
I think that's very interesting. Larry Page said, and it's a very famous quote way back, one of the founders of Google said, what can go digital will go digital, period.
Exactly.
That's it. And I think that's a very powerful saying, and this is exactly what you're saying.
I don't want to argue with it, but there are a couple of stores that actually sell tickets around the corner from here. It amazes me every time I go to work that they're still around.
Yeah.
They have very specialized focuses on where to go. But anyway, the work you've done here with Odash has resulted in a strategy and vision. How would you say that's instrumental in going forward for Sergel?
Well, it's the key. Because Odash helped us. When we started earlier in the autumn, in October, actually, when we had the event, we were saying we need to step into AI. And what we realized is we cannot do this on our own. Absolutely not. We have a lot of good AI knowledge within the company. We have a lot of, you were mentioning, you need to identify where do you have your resources? Do you have colleagues? We have a lot in the company. But we have focused on a few things, but now we need to take it a step bigger. I would say. So it's been key to work with Odash that they have challenged us throughout the journey, getting us to think about the bigger picture. What is important for the future? And you heard Arli talk about a lot of points that you need to think about. And those key points, we need to have that in our strategy. We need to ensure that every member of our company knows about this strategy and the foundation, what is important, because we heard laws and regulations, the data, and so it has been key to work with Odash, and I hope we'll continue to work, because this is just the beginning.
Of course.
But it has resulted in, we have a vision, we have a strategy, and we will move ahead with it. We will be part of the game. We will be more than 25%
Absolutely.
in the Nordic.
You are.
With AI, yes.
Yes.
So,
Henrik, for those our Nordic listeners here, would you tell us a little bit about what Kivra is? Maybe not everybody knows about it.
Happy to. I mean, when we were in Sweden, the most Swedes know what Kivra is, so it's good from a Nordic perspective. Kivra is, you could say, a digital mailbox from the beginning. We are serving 5.9 million users in Sweden. We have some 170,000 companies receiving documents and information from us, and we have close to 50,000 companies sending out information. And over the years, we have transformed into what we try to describe ourselves as Sweden's biggest and safest place for viktigheter. And viktigheter is it's just a made-up word in Swedish. So it's you could basically say important stuff. And we're trying to capture all of this important stuff for the Swedish citizens, the society, or everything that matters comes into your digital mailbox or this place for viktigheter. Now, I mean, we have had the declaration period in Sweden, so we have distributed millions and millions and millions of declarations to almost every Swede last weeks. And that's just one part of what we are disputing. I think that 30 or 40% of the Swedish population is getting their salary slips in Kivra. We are distributing, we are close to the full volume of the banks in terms of invoices disputed over the platform. So for us, I mean, I'm also obsessed with getting higher speed, and that comes back to how we are able, out of every hour we're spending, how we can create more value for our users, for our senders. But for us, the trust aspect is also a key part. And I think that is interesting when we're now looking into how we can build an even better service, and even broader better service for our users and senders. And I think that coming back to the iPhone moment, this is not about only creating more efficiency and more speed for ourselves, but I think that when we're moving a couple of years ahead, we will completely transform the expectations of our users, what you're actually expecting of all of these viktigheter that are distributed into Kivra. So that is something we are thinking quite a lot about, both on how we can utilize AI and how I can do it. I mean, I'm trying to do a lot of the tasks I'm spending time on. It can be, I mean, writing role descriptions for a new position in the leadership team. ChatGPT is a great co-pilot in that aspect.
You're 38% more efficient now.
Exactly, at least. Exactly, and if the effectiveness was a bit shitty from the beginning, it's even better return. But also, sort of, how can we, over time now, help our users to bring more value out of all the viktigheter, and their AI opens up new possibilities. But it comes, we are constantly then looking at it through the lens of how do we maintain this trust, and what can we actually do here and now, and what are we willing to bring out. So I mean, I've used all my data in Kivra and we have created basically you could say a co-pilot as well, or created a function that helped out to summarize what comes into Kivra. Let's say that it's not yet ready to ship to 5.9 million Swedes.
Yeah, it's as the old saying is, you know, you have bad data in, bad data out, right? But now it's bad data in, and then it's catastrophical out if you put it in the context of Kivra and AI in there. So I really understand this aspect that you really have to look at it from that. And I think,
I mean, it's also coming back to training based on data, because we have massive data sets where the majority of big companies and authorities and stuff are sending things through us. So the quality is fine, but still it needs to be trained. It needs to, all of this big notice letter from Swedish companies, how we can help our users to actually derive what are the most important parts of this one. That will require training, and that will take time. And we cannot be, I mean, we are built on trust on how we're handling this data, both from the senders and user perspective. And that one we take very, very seriously.
I think it's an interesting aspect that you already are entrusted by millions of people with their most sensitive information. But I think telling people that in today, the undereducated state we have of AI, saying that we're now going to roll out an AI that has also data you can talk, then I think people would react potentially a little bit, right? Or what do you think about that? But because even though you already have the data, you have the trust, pouring it into somewhere else, additionally, even though it's still within your own ecosystem, might raise a lot of eyebrows and fear from users unless they are first educated, I guess, about.
And I think that especially we need to really trust also the returns that are getting generated by AI. You wouldn't open up your data warehouse to anyone you met on the city. So you need to understand that, okay, how will this actually affect the customer experience, and what are the aspects, and how we'll bring it forward.
You're in an interesting place because you're on the crossroads of so many different companies and governmental organizations, everything. And it's based on trust, of course. So it needs to be stable, and that's required or expected, right? I think nobody would think anything less, at least in Sweden. Trust is high, so we expect you to do that. But in the meantime, also digital experiences are evolving in a quite high pace, also within your customers. You have banks, for instance. I mean, they do whatever they can to attract their customers. So you need to move in that pace as well. How much is your own innovation, and how much is your customers' innovation brought into your systems? That's the question.
Very good question. I think we'll have a mix of them because, I mean, we have relationships with the majority of Sweden's biggest companies, and we are a true platform business. I mean, trying to get what we have is the strength, and which I think is also getting more and more valuable in terms of trust and in the overall direction that they're going, because we have validated senders on one side and validated citizens on the other side. So everyone, we know what data is sent in from the sender, and we know what user is actually consuming it. So that's a great start. Then we are, I mean, having a lot of discussions with probably some of you here, how we can help out to bring even more value out to their business and to their customer experience itself. So for sure, it is about also enabling senders AI tools and their experience throughout. I mean, we are, to a large extent, a platform enabling companies to communicate in a more efficient way. But then we're coming into, we always have a two-sided business. So we will try to also see what can we help our users with, and how can we create even more value for the user on this aspect. And here, one of our key part of our culture is what we're calling happy. So I mean, we are constantly balancing the interest of the users and the senders. We are constantly balancing the interest of different parties in this platform business. And it's not about win-win. We will never do something that's only makes one part in this equation happy, but we're trying to strive for this happy solution that is good for everyone.
I think one of the challenges that you face, that we face as well, is sharing data, because you said you see a lot of data in your business, but of course it's hard to share that with your customers because there are legal complications, right? But the end customers, they want an omni solution. You know, they want to be seen all through the chain, even if they're with your bank or with the Kivra. Do you see that being helped with AI, or are we facing new legislation that would make it more difficult?
I think, I mean, if we're separating those questions, I think we will see more regulations, because I think that this is a new era of how we are using data. We had GDPR that's coming to a large extent as an effect of how companies are starting to utilize more and more data at the expense of the individuals. GDPR has been one major driver for our business, since it has been more clear sort of what channels can you utilize in order to distribute the sensitive data. For example, salary slips that we now send out to millions of Swedes every month. That was just 10 years ago to a large extent distributed by email. And then GDPR clearly declared that this is not a proper way of distributing sensitive information, such as salaries, and creating an opportunity for us. So I think also AI and the development will come with new legislation. And then the first part of what data will we and others be able to share in an ecosystem, then I think it will be a lot about how do we do this on the terms of the individual. Because I think that's also a key part, I think, all legislation, that ownership for data is moving more and more towards the end user, towards the individual, towards the citizen. And that is sort of, no matter on which regulation you look into and no matter on what industry, I think that all points in the same direction. So I think it comes back to how can we make sure that we're doing this in the interest of the user.
I think this is very interesting, because if we look at history, and history has a tendency to repeat itself, I mean, we will have legislation, we must have legislation, and it's coming. If you look at when internet came, we got legislation afterwards that had to change from copyright laws to whatever it was. Then when it came to cybersecurity laws and so on, we had to change all of that stuff. Then the iPhone came, Now lately, we've seen how they've had to open up their app stores, both Google and Apple in EU, for example. Then GDPR came and so on. So this is going to be the same thing. But we also see that within this, there is also opportunities to be found. So, for example, for you, GDPR was a way where you could have a unique selling point. Say, look, we are GDPR safe, you can get your payslips through way. This is the same way we are working, for example, with Odash. We are the only single player that is actually GDPR secured, also working with TÜV Süd, for example, in Germany, which is a huge certifier as our data protection officer, saying that, okay, are you a big company? Don't worry, we can put everything on premise for you, follow all the laws, doesn't matter if you have 20 billion euros in revenue, none of your data is going to end up anywhere else. And if you don't have those legislations, then then there will always be driven by basically where can we save each cent, and that's going to be on the cost of the individuals where the data is being coming in. So I think the legislation is good, but we should not over-legislate also to slow down innovation. So there's a balance act there. I think that's very important.
Arli, you've been working together with your founder partner Måns Pontén-Södlin with Sergel now for about 6 months on a Nordic level together with Pamela and her team. What are your impressions so far?
I have to say I'm very impressed by Sergel. Yeah, I have to say. So I think it's so. I'm very, very fascinated to see how good you guys are at actually. There's a lot of new information, a lot of new things happening and going very fast, right? And you guys, as you say, have the ability to really condense this information, filter through it, and say these and these aspects are important for us because you know your business well. And I think this is what really makes it important. As we mentioned, AI is a tool, and if you don't know the inner workings of your business, it doesn't matter if you have the best Bosch machine or tool or hammer or whatever. If you don't know where to use it, it's not going to get more efficient, right? And I think this has been, from our point of view, what has been amazing to see with you guys, that we brought the tools for you. You were able to explain your machinery very well to us, and then we were able together to create a Formula One racing machine here, So this is how I feel it has been. So yeah, hats off, very good.
Thanks. We talk about starting small and starting now, but we actually started quite a while ago. Pamela, you want to say about that?
Well, we have been working side by side because, of course, as Arli was mentioning, there are a lot of areas within companies that you can actually have some quick wins quite fast. So we knew it was going to come. We understood quite fast from working with Odash that what are the key foundations we have to work with, and quick wins that everyone talks about that can generate some efficiency and productivity increase, which of course will lead to reduced cost. So we started to look at that on the same time. What can we do? And we had dedicated resources in the company who has the experience, but also the interest. So they have already been looking around to see what can we do to reach some quick efficiencies that will actually start to impact, so we can continue to invest further on later on, but at least start somewhere. So we built that into the strategy that we have, and that's where we are right now. We are in the testing, evaluation phase, which partner we actually will work with within some of the areas within the company. And we are starting with, going back to you, customer services, operations, where we know that many companies have achieved some quick wins through implementing some additional tools by taking away a lot of manual work. So the workforce then can focus on other things that adds value both to the customer and end customers. So, and our core business is, of course, help our customers to get their money back. Just simple as that, to collect, and that's what we want to do. And we want to ensure that all of our operations teams can focus on the right things and take away those manual work that's not needed, actually, where AI can support us. Of course, based on laws and regulations. So we have been working two ways, building the overall strategy and vision, and then on the same time starting actually side by side to evaluate what's out there and what can bring fast quick wins. for us.
And this is also this what you mentioned on the presentation, the cross-department part. So by doing a cross-department part, you're working in parallel. It's like going from as a geek as I am, single CPU to a multi-core CPU. You have multiple cores within your companies that are working towards some goal, and when everybody is taking those steps at the same time, you move a mile forward, even if it's small steps. And I think you guys are really good at doing that, and I think this is something that is very inspiring for other companies to do as well.
You can get pretty far with just implementing small modular systems that work on their own standalones, but you also work more with architectural infrastructure setups, right? Correct. Because you have your data lakes and everything. Yeah. And that's maybe a little bit further on in maturity, and maybe mostly for the big companies that have higher needs. But how do you see the development? What do you see in 2024 as a maturity overall? Not on a personal level, but more on a company level.
It's a very good question. I think that we have 25% of companies investing now. I think that we will be seeing first and foremost during 2024 a real push, I hope, and I believe from HR and people departments to educate their people, because there is a big part of this that's a little bit like going under the radar is people's anxiety about AI as well, feeling that they don't know enough about it, feeling that will they be replaced if they're working in customer service, kind of going out and saying we want to empower you, we want to educate you, and we will be bringing in tools and what you think is important for us. So please be part of it, and this way alleviate anxiety. I think this is going to be an important topic we will be seeing more and more in 2024, no matter what company it is, small or big or any industry, because we all know, knowledge is power, and this is one of the big things. I think the second thing is data. I think people will hopefully finally take this moment now and say, okay, if we are going to be ready for the future and be able to move forward fast, really have to start looking at our data quality, and then they will realize, oh wow, wait, our data quality it's there, but is it qualitative? Who can tell us if it's qualitative? Because we have some things in PDFs, some things are in databases, etc. And that's really also where AI starts to come in. Then they will start to look at these new type of storages, which, what we have, like the data lakehouse, which is not a data warehouse. A data lakehouse is storing structured, unstructured, and semi-structured data. Because one thing that I think we've learned through the past now 10 years of this digital transformation era, where every single company was, I'm head of a digital transformation project, we're doing this and that, and every company was doing it, is that it's just too much work and it's just too costly and too time consuming to structure unstructured data. So AI comes a little bit here as the white knight on a horse coming in, right, and saving up this and say, okay, you don't need to really structure everything. AI can do it, but then there comes a really important part here where Henrik is saying, can we trust the data out that's coming in? And that's where it comes down to selecting the players and partners that know what they're doing. So going back again to the presentation, be picky of your partners who is doing that. So I think that that kind of finally moving forward into putting all the company's data into one place and being able to use it will finally be happening more and more in 2024. Not the thing that people are saying, we're doing that, but it's just been too hard. Now with AI, they actually will be able to do it. And I think those two topics are going to be quite an important aspect 2024. On top of that, then customer service, operations, all of these low-hanging fruits, so to speak, will be coming into play.
Henrik, do you share this? Is this the vision you have with your new project?
I think that, we coming from a different angle on many aspects since, compared to the 700 employees or the tasks for equivalent to 700 individuals saved at customer service. We're serving 5.9 million users in Sweden with 8 people in customer service. We are extremely efficient by having a solid service that works. We are serving 47 or close to 50,000 companies sending stuff on 3 persons. So the case for driving down headcount for us is not the key aspect for us.
I saw you raising your hand with increasing headcount.
And I think that we will increase not just investments, but also, I mean, running cost when implementing AI, because I mean that's one of the reasons why NVIDIA's share has been through the roof over the last years, because this is also a major something that drives a lot of consumptions, because we are the cost will arrive or derive somewhere else. So for me, it's really about, okay, how can we create maximum customer experience and create an even better company with these new toolings that are coming. And for that, yes, data is one part, but I also think that, I mean, we are a tech company, so we're building this ecosystem. And then it's much about also how we are building the service as such, how we can move more and more of our total delivery into code. So how we can break down our infrastructure down to code, which then enables a broader set of the total service delivered that can be automated over time. And I think that also, I mean, it's easy to see now that I think that ChatGPT and the development that you showed, or this couple of years, has opened up the eyes for everyone on how powerful this development can be, just as the pinching on the iPhone. But if you could also say that, I mean, we have been on this journey for a long time, and it's all about building better, more efficient companies. And it started, I mean, 10 years ago, you're starting automated a lot of the rule-based tasks around the company and finding. And now with AI, we are enabling, I mean, we get a new set of skills that we can apply, and we can drive automation in completely new way and at a broader scale. And that is what I think it's all about.
We're going to sum up. I have a final question for you.
I wanted to mention something on this. I think it's very interesting what you said, Henrik, because if you look just 2 days ago, I wanted to mention it. Devon is the world's first AI software engineer released by Cognition Labs. And we're talking about a software engineer that is solving 15% of the GitHub open tickets out there on repository right now. And so I fully agree with you. This is something that we foresaw and we talked a lot internally about 1 year ago as we had huge IT departments, and we said a lot of this work is going to be put on the AI and increasing efficiency of delivery. And I think this is also a very good way to increase speed, because as you can deliver in more iterations, the product gets even better.
I think we see the same situation at Sergel. A lot of customer errands that can be handled pretty easily with AI.
Absolutely.
But I want to see, what do you see coming in the next couple of months, let's see, in the autumn of 2024? Because it's a quick wins with Copilot and things like that. But what do you see a little bit further? We don't plan that far ahead.
No, we haven't gone that far as of yet, but of course we are looking at how can we implement AI. Now we're starting with some smaller quick wins that we have, and one of them is basically educating everyone in the company, of course, to ensure that everyone is up to speed and sees how they can actually utilize and use AI in their daily job according to laws and regulations that we are allowed to. And then, of course, the efficiency part. But we are also looking into Copilot, and this is something that we have been talking quite a lot to Odash with, because everyone is talking about Copilot now. But what you need to understand is, as soon as you start to involve the data that you have, you need to have control over that. So we need to look at some foundation basis moving forward. But then, of course, look into how can we take the next step in our scoring models, for example. How can we ensure that we use our data in a different way to add value to both our customers and end customers in our handling? Can this help us to differentiate? But to enable us to do that, we really have to learn. We have to learn more and ensure that we take step by step. But definitely, and I know you, Christian, we are having a plan now for this year in our strategy, what we're doing with AI, but it's important to not stop there and just be happy. Now we have implemented some AI. We need to continue that journey. But we look into further automation and digitalization on the same time as AI. But the main thing, what I just want to say, is that we will in the company ask in the future, can AI solve this? If we have any challenges, if we have any difficulties, then we will look into, will AI be able to solve this? And if it's possible, we will look into what will that take to enable us to do that.
Final question, Arli. Will there be one ring to rule them all? One AI to...
Very good question. No, I don't think there will be one to rule them all. I think that a lot of the movements we're seeing now is also going into the hands of the masses. We're looking at amazing open source communities that are developing amazing models. We see huge models like Llama 2 from Meta being commercially available, open source, so people can use that unless you're over 600 million active users per month. So they basically blocked all their competitors of using it. So, that's how the terms are. So I don't think there will be one to rule them all. But I do think that once we reach AI general intelligence, which is the next step, there will be one that reaches this first. And I think that that's why we're seeing, in difference to other type of technology trends that have been coming and going, this we can really see this one, that you can see all of the largest tech companies investing heavily into this. Meta just invested into what's equivalent of 600,000 H100 chips. This is the NVIDIA chips. This is equivalent of $10 billion infrastructure investment, and there are other ones are doing the same. So I definitely don't think there will be one to rule them all, because I don't think that there will be one investment that's worth everything and everybody else zero. It's for me unlogical from a financial perspective and product perspective. But I do think that there will be one that's kind of given that this is the first one that reached AGI, artificial general intelligence. In the same way, OpenAI is the first one that really used the transformers, in the same way that Apple is really the first one to have given a real smartphone. So from that point of view, there will be one that's known, but many that are there.
We need to move on. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
For this presentation.
Thanks.
Thank you, Henrik. You'll be back in a little while. Thank you, Pamela. And thank you, Arli. Välkomna på scenen då, Johan Gustafsson från Helix och Mattias Westman från Sergel. So you've been to London and the NPL Europe 2024 for the 14th time. How many women were there?
Quite a lot, I would say.
Really?
Yeah.
I saw the pictures from the panels, it was just men.
Yeah. It's increasing, I would say, numbers of there as well.
Okay.
But it's a great place to meet. For me as an investor, I find it really useful to meet up with both investor side, seller side, and also to hear and listen in to different new kind of structures that are being talked about on how to invest, and also the market conditions, of course.
So I'm going to hand over the dialogue to you. You can have a talk to each other, but also to share your experiences, what happened there.
Yeah.
So.
And maybe first an introduction to NPL Europe. NPL stands for non-performing loans. So this is an event where sellers and buyers who are selling and buying unpaid loans mainly in Europe meet. Also other parties like law firms and other consultants that sort of help out with these deals. Just to give you a background to what this event was. And as we said, more women, but overall a few people from the Nordics. But this is really an event where you have a lot of people from mid and south of Europe. So it is an event covering the whole of Europe, and we will come into sort of what is the difference between the Nordics and the rest of Europe. I think that's an interesting aspect. But maybe you want to, if you would like to sort of what you started with, sort of who is there and why is it interesting to be there?
Yeah, but I would say, okay, I've been around in this business now for like 15 years plus. Didn't, like Arli mentioned, didn't have NPL portfolio buying as a key focus when I was 7 or 14 years old. But been here for a while now, and it's because it's always a changing business. I really like that in the dynamics that we have in the NPL investments. But the last years now, we've seen quite big shifts and big turnarounds for some investors, and also we have new players coming in, especially in the Nordic market, which has been quite closed for a while. And it's really interesting to take part and listen in to different discussions now going on. Is it an opportunity to step into the Nordics? Is it not? Because for me, it's talking to co-investors, maybe making a collaboration, looking at bigger deals. And they look around across Europe, across the whole world, to place their money. And now the last, I would say, 2 years, we see it's opening up opportunities in the Nordics. And working as a servicing company like you do, I think you have really good now opportunities to show and to be there to take part of these coming deals as well. So.
Yeah, I think it's... There was a saying when we had the panel discussions for the Nordic region, and that was Sweden, Denmark, Norway and Finland, very, very stable markets, and at the same time, a lot of changes there. So it's kind of there is a contrast that has happened in the last couple of years. Overall, when it comes to the macroeconomy in the Nordic countries, it's still stable. Collecting debts, paying loans, that is still on very stable levels. But what has happened during the last couple of years is, I think we mentioned that in Arli's presentation, money has been free, interests have been negative a few years back. Now suddenly there's a cost to financing whatever you want to do, including the purchase. So financing costs, and that has really made the market shift in a big way. I would say, I don't know if you agree if there are other parts, but that was one thing that I brought with me, that on one hand, the very stable market, on the other hand, the rapid changing market. Yeah. So a bit of two sides of the coin.
I agree, it's a rapid changing market. I've been in these kind of conferences for a while now, and you can really notice how it's changing rapidly, but also new kind of structures it's setting up. We haven't been in that so much in the Nordics earlier. We have had the normal traditional way of one-offs for flows when it comes to NPL business, and that is what we call like a second placement. Now we see in the Nordics a third placement that are the first buyers are selling to next ones. What we see in the rest of Europe is like a fourth placement as well. So you have big fishes, small fishes, everybody swimming around, then you have the really big sharks, and you take the part of the deal. And you see also different type of opportunities, and as I mentioned earlier, in the Nordics, haven't been those opportunities earlier, but now they see them. So
and I would say it's both a consequence because of legislation, the NPL legislation that has come into force from 2019, but also some companies struggling a bit, selling debts further to, as you say, third and fourth parties. But overall, I would say, my impression, I don't know if you agree, the sellers of receivables thinks the prices are too low at the moment. The buyers think that the prices are too high at the moment. I'm exaggerating a bit, but just so the market is moving, and we'll see. Everyone is looking where should we meet on what level. Do you agree on that?
I would totally agree. And for me, I'm representing now 4 different investment companies in the Nordics. We built up this structure for the last years, and been quite focused also the last 4 years on bank and finance. Still some telecom as well in unsecured, but I haven't had this many conversations that I had like the last quarter, last half year, with sellers of portfolios that are checking the prices. How is it time to sell now? Who is buying? And this that you talked about, the price levels. We have had some players, then they adapted quite fast to this. They understood the market conditions, they foresaw it, and then have sold in time. Some others were looking to the perfect time to sell in the beginning of last year, didn't find the sweet spot for them, waited to get better prices. Better prices didn't exist in the end of the last year. So now they're quite in a hurry to sell because everybody else is also there looking to sell. And in the Nordics earlier, we had the tradition of quite long forward flow contracts for like, say, 2 to 4 years, been standard. Almost no one is now from the purchasing side willing to sign off for more than 1 year. Maybe like a 1+1. You check after 1 year, then sign and check everything is working as it should. We continue, but still have some checkpoints. And to meet those levels now, I think that's the tricky part. If you haven't adopted as a seller, you need to do it quite fast.
Yeah, and I think my impression, also meeting with the sellers, they are not that interested either in signing long contracts because again, everyone is looking where should the price be? Do we see interest rates declining going forward? Maybe the prices will sort of pick up again, move a bit upwards. So when is the right time to sell? But I think there's an interesting part, and we will probably see. Christian asked us for the trends. What will we see going forward? And I think new companies coming in, new investors, and new structures, as you say. So there is a shift in the market. There's also a shift in the market where some sellers, the ones who have cheap financing, maybe they keep their debt longer. They wait selling. So the timing is one question as well. And also a trend, I think you nailed it there, where you said, it always have been forward flow in the Nordics. Everybody's selling each month. Now suddenly it accumulates. So it's more larger one-off deals, which I would say the European investors are more used to. So one could argue how exciting non-performing loans are. But us working in this, I would say there's exciting times in the market, and let's see what happens in the coming years. A lot of opportunities for both sellers, buyers, investors, and everyone.
And at the moment, it is the buyer's market, I would say. Been there for like the last 6 months. Will continue a little bit more, but new players are stepping in, so competition will increase in those times. But then, it's about timing as well then, further on. And I think we will see some mergers perhaps between some today that is present on the market, both in servicing and in buyer side. Also new partnerships. We've already seen that with Intrum, Cerberus and others. Hoist stepping in as well to the market. Looking into more different kind of new structures. And I think that is also good for the business, for the industry in total, because you need to have that development.
Yeah.
And I really see a bright future for the whole industry if they can adapt now and change to this one. Also, we see from the banking side a more interest to set up new structures like that as well. We also see a bright future coming, and looking forward to new collaborations.
Yeah, and I would say now we're talking about selling and buying debts, but I would say that one trend as well that we're seeing is not selling. So the request for servicing, debt collection services is also increasing. That's one trend. But in the end, that results in portfolios building up and maybe not 2024, but 2025, 26, we will probably see more larger one-off deals. That's at least what I think.
I mean, one opportunity that I see now opening up more for you as a servicing company, that is to perhaps step in on already or still active cases at the banks, because they need the help. The banks are not experts to collect or to work with these payers, late payers. They are experts to take care of the new customers, working with those ones. But as they can't really get the new good price out on the market, they perhaps need the expert help. But we've seen that across Europe already, that the banking sector are taking in servicing companies much earlier. So that's a huge volume and potential in deals for you guys. That you bring your experts on talking with these late payers and make some of these. So, okay, we can't really buy them, but they're still on the books, and you help the customer much earlier.
Yeah. But Christian, you wanted some trends and reflections. I think this is again a really small area, the non-performing loans area, but
I think it's a small area.
Well, depends on how you measure it, of course. In terms of money, it's a big area, but again, really interesting, and I think the market is changing a lot, which creates both challenges, but I think both for, at least from you ones and my perspective, a lot of opportunities as well.
Yep. To those listening online, I want to say sorry if you thought the background noise was a bit too high, but I hope the message got through. In case you want to hear more from these guys, I would suggest book a meeting, because they have the latest and the sharpest insights in NPLs, and can give you good advice, and you can ask if we're a good fit for selling your portfolios. Anything you would like to say to this room as a short sum up?
As a sum up is that it's really exciting times ahead, I would say, for me as an investor at least. I've been investing in this in like more than 15 years. As I said in the beginning of our discussions here, was that, okay, I didn't dream about this like Arli did when he was 7 and 14 years old, but it's a really interesting business to be part of, because it's always changing. But what we see now is a huge change in the Nordic market, but also across Europe and all there. So really interesting to be part of it.
Yeah, and I would say, as always, maybe timing. If you, as a seller, if you have the opportunity to wait, to find sort of, as you once said, a lot of sellers are asking for prices. What are the current prices? Is it the right time to sell? So work both with sort of traditional debt collection services combined with debt purchase. That combination to be able to select when you should sell, so you're not forced to sell. That also gives you the best opportunities to get a good deal out of it.
Yeah.
So,
would you say the same on all across the different Nordic markets?
Well, no offense to Denmark. Denmark is a bit different in this, but Norway, Sweden, Finland, really sort of a lot of similarities. Denmark, maybe usually a bit of lower prices there, but I think the interest rates have gone up in all countries. So I think they are more alike in the trends and the opportunities. But from a Nordic perspective, Denmark is probably the country where it's a bit more difficult to collect, which affect the prices. But otherwise, same.
As an investor, I would say all markets and just choose a really good servicing partner. Denmark is exciting to work with, and if you have a really good servicing partner, you can do really good deals there. Been doing that earlier, and we always monitor that market as well.
Okay. Yeah. So now this was a huge conference about Europe. What's the next big milestones to keep your eye on? Is there anything happening in coming months that is important to be aware of?
Well, we look closely, of course, to different type of regulations. There's some discussions about that that might open up even more when it comes to creating new investment structures. That's something that we monitor. And then we have some big conferences coming up as well, where we meet and discuss some new opportunities.
Yeah, I think legislation, but overall, I think we have never seen, at the moment, I've been in this business for 15 years. I can't remember when I've seen so many requests for proposal out right now. There's a lot of activity in the market, which is a lot of hard work, but also a lot of exciting work. So a lot of movement in the market. And that's interesting.
That's also very good for us as an investor, because we can be quite picky. So it's not what the seller would like to hear, but
yeah. Would you say it's a biased market?
Yeah, absolutely a biased market. Been that for like at least the last 6 months. I still see at least the coming quarter that it is, and then nobody wants to miss the best chance, of course. So we'll see when everybody starts to buy more, but still a buyer's market.
Okay.
I'm not picky. Everyone is right.
Great final words.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Johan and Mattias.
Yeah.
Round of applause.
Thank you.
topic extremely close to my heart, and those who know me, I'm probably the person in Sergel that uses the word sustainability most during the day in absolutely every context. I spent the last 2 decades working with leadership and organizational development, and I've done it from the perspective of looking at underlying human mechanisms. You touched upon it, Arli, talking about AI, because we have all the tools available. We need to work with the company and get the results, but it all depends on us as people. And you see I've got an extremely lengthy title, not just because I love titles, but it makes perfect sense. Because we're not going to be sustainable unless our people do what is necessary, which is thus our culture. And whenever I talk about sustainability, this is a really famous, impressive painter in Norway that really sums up all my emotions in one painting. It's Scream by Edvard Munch. It really depicts all my emotions. I have a sense of massive anxiety, a massive sense of urgency, because we have spent decades talking, having all the best intentions. We haven't moved an inch, rather maybe in the wrong direction than in the right direction. We have masses of knowledge and information, but we're just not making use of it. We're still just talking. We're not walking the talk. And having worked as a political risk analyst in Africa, having lived, worked, and studied there in South Africa as well, my job was to monitor and assess the situation, what's happening out there, and how does it affect us. And looking at the climate changes and the impact on a continent, which done very little to really make the results we're seeing, the impact on the finance and economic situation and social sustainability are massive. I mean, Cape Town, first major city in the world to literally run out of water. That has a massive impact on their finances and their economic situation. They have, in 2023, 100 days of no access to electricity. Imagine what that does to the economy. They used to be the powerhouse on the African continent, not anymore. Now it's Nigeria. It has a massive impact. Yesterday, I read about the Panama Canal. It has such low levels of water that's really impacting global trade. That affects us. We don't get the goods in time if we get them at all. And it's not looking really optimistic for the Panama Canal, which opened, I think, in 1914. Come to 2024, we don't know if they will be able to get the ships through in the future. So for me, it's a no-brainer. Climate changes has an impact on our economy. And especially so, it's so easy because it becomes almost like an abstract concept. It's something that's happening somewhere else, not really for us. You know, I lived in Africa, moved back to Norway, the la-la land up north. But it will have an impact on our economy as well. And it's no longer just something happening far away. We see it on our own doorstep. Insurance companies have an exponential increase in insurance claims due to natural disasters. It isn't just something happening far away, it's right at our doorstep. And not only the climate changes and environmental impact and the financial impact, we like to claim in the Nordics that we're really, really good at equality, inclusion, and diversity. Sad to say, as a woman, if this is the best we're doing, I'm still not very impressed. We've done quite a good work on board members, but CEO positions, we're not really near it. Looking at gender pay gaps, imagine being an immigrant. These numbers are looking even far worse. We still have so much to do, and we're not really doing it. And the exam results are in. All these decades spent on doing absolutely nothing. I'm quite harsh saying that. But I mean, I have evidence supporting it. We've crossed 6 planetary boundaries. Again, Scream is such a great picture for what I'm feeling. Anxiety, a sense of urgency. Not just because of me, but more importantly, for these two, my 2 girls. I don't want that to be their legacy. What did we do? Looking them in the eyes 10 to 20 years from now. What did you do? Well, we had a massive amount of information and knowledge. We just spent, 4 decades discussing, should we do something? We had great intentions, lovely presentations, glossy slides, a lot of greenwashing. We bought some trees here and there and some CO2 things when we were flying, but we didn't move the needle, not nearly. So for me, sustainability has to be a game changer. And luckily, we have certain things helping us. You mentioned in AI, but compliance as well is really helping us and driving the agenda. It's not anymore about should we do it or not. We're being forced to. Transparency Act, the CSRD directive coming in for full. They're expecting us to do more and report on more, not just some certain recycling activities. It's not nearly enough, and we're getting help from compliance. Our customers, again, they're expecting us to be compliant. We have to report on what we're doing. And not only our customers, but we see consumers. They are much more conscious and expecting much more from the businesses. And they can choose who do they want to buy their products and services from. If we are to be attractive clients and customers in the future, it's not enough just to have a nice glossy presentation. You have to walk the talk as well. Our employees in Sergel are also driving the agenda. They expect to work in a company that are making the right sustainable choices. They expect to be in a workplace in 2024 where we are diverse, equal, and inclusive. If not, they can go somewhere else. We're not as loyal as we used to be just 20 years ago. I've noticed in the recruitment process for the first time that potential candidates are asking me, what do you do in terms of sustainability? No one asked me that 5 years ago. There is a shift here. New generations are coming in, and luckily for us, they're much more in tune and much more demanding from us, which is great. But then again, this picture pops up. It has to be a game changer. We are getting helpers that's driving the agenda. But then I'm brought back to the concept of sustainability. And I find it really difficult to navigate and understand what does it actually mean. It's a jungle out there. We've had a tendency to look at the environmental aspect, which is necessary. But we now see we have to have a much more holistic approach. That means it encompasses absolutely everything. It permeates all parts of business. But then it becomes very abstract. What then is sustainability? And what can I do? What does it mean in practical terms? That becomes very complex. And what affects what? And it becomes a little bit of a jungle that's not really easy to grasp. It's not very tangible. And in Sergel, we've based all our sustainability work on the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We've included an entire organization in looking at the goals that are critical for us to work with, where we really have an impact, and the ones that are necessary. And with our colleagues, try to really unpack, what does that mean in practical terms? When I'm a debt collection agent, which activities do I do that contributes to these development goals? Which is great and necessary. With science-based targets, initiative certified, also great. Then there's still a jungle of certifications, concepts, definitions out there. So when we're meeting our clients, answering RFPs, we end up spending a lot of time trying to translate all the good work we're already doing into how does that make sense in your context and your way of understanding and reporting. Which again creates a sense of urgency, because we might just be ending up and succumbing to documenting and reporting instead of doing what's necessary to move that needle. So although this pains me a little bit to say, I'm going to say it anyway. I'm actually welcoming the CSRD directive. It's a bit of a change. I saw it and I had a bit of a hate relationship. I thought, yet again, another turn with trying to understand how do we fit into this directive and this way of reporting. But I think it's necessary for us, instead of spending time trying to figure out what do we mean by it, how do we report it, we will have a common understanding of what it is, what is required, a standardized ESRS reporting tool, which is great and necessary. It's also a tool that really takes into the whole double materiality assessment and takes into account social sustainability as well. But at the same time, it's going to require a lot of effort and resources doing that groundwork, mapping up what do we have already that answer to this way of reporting, and where are those gaps. And if you look at different, being in HR, I spent a lot of time looking at what's happening in the market when it comes to open positions. Have you seen the endless amount of companies seeking ESG experts, sustainability experts? That's because everyone now is scrambling in order to be compliant. You touched about it earlier. They will choose us because we are compliant. Well, now companies have to as well. But not everyone is prepared for it. Luckily, Sergel has spent, I would say, almost a decade working with We Care and making part of our DNA, implementing it in the way we do business. What does it entail? And I think a lot of that groundwork is really going to help us in the CSRD framework as well. Because in that, we have spent time looking at, okay, what is it that we do and how must we do business when working with customers and end customers and in the organization with employees, ensuring we can provide sustainable operations. And what does it mean in practical terms? We've unpacked what do we want to do for our customers, employees, and sustainable operations. And every year, when we're making our sustainability strategy, setting goals and activities, we need to see what is it we can do this year that are concrete activities leading to this. How can we ensure a retention-based value chain? How can we work with our end customers, help them settle their debts so that they can become customers yet again? Still providing that 5,000-year-old business that we're representing, making sure and upholding trust in the credit market. How do we work with our end customers? How do we identify vulnerable groups where we need to differentiate the way we approach them? How do we test different SMS solutions to see what actually works? That makes it understandable and effortless for me as an end customer, and making sure that I actually settle my debt so that you as a customer get paid for your products and services. You know, originally we thought the more information on SMS, just put it all in there and they'll be able to know what to do. What we saw was that, no, that makes it more confusing. It takes longer for them to settle their debt. Okay, but then we need to act. And that testing and experimenting we need to constantly do. And I think the work we're doing with AI will also help us in this picture. Working with bias awareness training, you touched upon it in AI, but that also goes for us as employees. How does that affect us in meeting end customers? And how does that affect us in, as soon as possible, make sure that end customer becomes a paying customer again? And not least, how do we work with our employees? You touched about the role of people and culture, and I think sustainability also really plays in there. How do we rig our organization so that we make use of the tools available? I think Teams is such a great example. We all had it. It was implemented. But when did we start using it? Only when the pandemic hit, because we had no other option. How do we create... I'm really proud to say we're one of the few companies in the Nordics that on a yearly basis measure what our employees feel if we are diverse, equal, and inclusive. When the results are in, we start working with them in the workshop. What are we doing well and what must we improve for the coming years? That for me is also a game changer, and it's important. And what do we do within sustainable operations? Because I think very often this is where we are. You know, we reduce our business travels, we have a travel system that measures the impact we have, we reduce electricity consumption, we do food waste, everything's in order, in place. It's very easy just to be up here. But if you remember, sustainable development, it is much, much more. So what is it that we can do to ensure that we are a sustainable operation? And for us, you know, speaking on behalf of people and culture as well, it also comes down to our people and what we choose to do on a daily basis. And what I'm most proud about when it comes to Sergel, and I talk about this in every possible setting, is this. I work in a company that understands that underlying human mechanisms are essential and key in moving the needle. That means mobilizing an entire organization. That means it can't be just me or Mattias in Sverige that drives the sustainability agenda. That's a lost cause. We need to unpack, set aside time every single year where we bring sustainability to the agenda with workshop with all our employees. What does this mean? What is sustainability in Sergel? What do you think we do well? And what do we need to do further? Why is sustainability important to me? Because we are not going to do anything unless it matters. You mentioned the gym. I mean, a perfect example of underlying human mechanism. If I have no return of investment, I'm not going to do what's necessary. Because we believe in the power of tiny gains. If we improve 1% every single day, I believe that's really a game changer, and I believe we really have understood that, and we're working towards that. And that's what's making us the game changer when it comes to sustainability as well. So moving back to my children, they are the ones driving it. They are the ones making it important to me. So in 2024, I've started a project, and I quite often hate that project, because I decided I'm going to commute to work. And you might live in Stockholm and think, oh, great, easy. Well, I live in Norway. Our offices are quite remote. It entails taking the train and then the bus. And on a windswept platform in January with -20, I can swear to you, I'm always this far from just going and grabbing my car instead and driving to work. But that's not really going to help them in their future, is it? So I need something in that instant, in that moment where I just want to go back to the car to really make me do the effort that's required. And I understand that me taking the train is not going to revolutionize the world. But if more than 6 billion people think, okay, it doesn't matter what I do, then we're just going to continue that negative attraction that we're on. So it is about asking all our employees and asking ourselves, what is it to me? What can I do in my role in a concrete action? Why does it matter? So that I make the right choice and prioritize a more sustainable activity for a more sustainable future. Because we believe sustainability is a game changer. You're not going to have a competitive edge. You talked about AI and how many percentages are using it. We're not going to be an attractive company or employer in the future if we don't join that game and make it a game changer for us. So the question is, what makes it important to you? And who do you choose as your partner for a more sustainable future? Thank you for your time.
Just a follow-up question. First of all, I would like to say I'm proud to be in a company with so many great people and passionate people that help us continue to develop, but also to develop on a Nordic scale, not only locally in each country. So thank you for that. But there's a question as well.
Okay.
You're in the middle of the storm.
Quite literally, often.
Yeah, quite literally. But you seem to have found a grip on it. I mean, you talk about all these different systems. And I think you're most involved in all kinds of RFPs and companies coming to us saying, answer these questions. But isn't it true that most of them are on environmental, right?
Yes.
And it's a lot about checking the boxes, making sure that you do your part in their ecosystem.
No, I think, yeah.
But can we be a driver to help them realize all the work that you have done here to change their behavior to encompass more of this sustainability thinking?
Well, I wish, because then we would start doing the right things. I think anything we do is important, first of all. I'm not shaming those who don't go the full length. But I think one of the reasons why people also really quickly go to the environmental part is that it's tangible. It's easy to check the box on food recycling, measuring, okay, how much do we print? How much electricity consumption do we? What smarter solutions can we use? That's it's easy for us to see and check. And that's, I think, also where a lot of the greenwashing has come in. That's been very popular to talk about. Okay, yes, you bought, you planted some trees as a company and you're supporting some bees somewhere. Great, we've done what we needed. And I think the other parts, especially the social sustainability part, is often a bit more difficult to grapple. What does that mean in concrete activities? And I think when I joined Sergel, I think I spent the first year just figuring out what are we doing and how is that actually sustainable, and translating those activities. When we work and base our entire employee and leadership development on job engagement, because we know from research that has a direct impact on the bottom line, a lot of companies don't do that. I mean, that's why I chose to join Sergel in the first place. And understanding that that's part of social sustainability is not as easy. Those dots are not as clear as having those boxes at the back there that says paper, plastic, waste. It's again what you talked about when it comes to those mechanisms at play. I mean, Sergel is only as sustainable as the sum of all the activities that each and one of us do. And that's not as easy to see. And I think we can help in the way we do talk and communicate and the way we write our RFPs and help them see how we are impacting. But I think at the end of the line, if I'm being really blunt, and if I'm looking at the results so far, it's still very easy for the ones reading the offers coming in. Okay, it's easy. I can check the green box. And I think we're going to get a lot of help from the CSRD directive. I think that is actually an opportunity for us as a company to really showcase. And when I talk to vendors with management systems for sustainability, they're actually quite impressed with what we've done, the groundwork we've done on social and financial sustainability. And I think that directive and that reporting tool is really going to also showcase that work.
So our offer to all of you out there now, listening, our companies, call us before you set up your RFP, and we can help you write it the right way, right? So we're going to talk a little bit more about double materiality later in the panel. So stay tuned for that, as they say. It's a cliffhanger. But also I'd like to say that, Sergel has a strategy and a vision, and one of the cores that go across all the things that we're planning is sustainability, together with compliance, of course. And we care. But here to talk more about our strategy, how we as a Nordic company can help our customers being a strategic partner, is our CEO, Klaus Reimer.
Hello everyone. Thank you for listening in and thank you for being here today. I would like actually initially just to say a bit of a compliment actually, because I'm so proud having this session today. I mean, listening in both to Arli, to Henrik, Pamela, and you, Christine, has been quite interesting actually. I'm so proud having you two guys on board. You're representatives of what we actually are and what we are focusing at and what we are aiming for. So that's really nice, number one. And number two, you're talking about trust. I think our business is exactly the same. We are, as you, in between. We have customers on one side, and we have end customers, your customers, on the other side. And making that happen in best possible way is actually also very much about trust. And really looking forward to have more dialogues with you on the AI side as well. I can say that much. But I hope you will all have gotten something with you when going back later today. I will take some minutes elaborating on Sergel and a bit about our journey, on how we want to secure, to act and deliver as a strategic partner, and what are in our focus in order to meet evolving needs in the market. So bear with me. It will be some stats at first. I mean, in short, we have been around since 1988 in Sweden, later on coming in Finland, Norway, and Denmark. And since 2017, we have been an independent Nordic company owned by Sostera, establishing our Nordic setup, defining our pan-Nordic vivid vision, and aiming to secure an organization driven by strong business culture, self-leadership, and having cooperation and motivation as key, and focusing to secure that our leaders are integrators that work specifically to remove obstacles. Today, we offer a robust value proposition related to our main service areas, and we are constantly working to deliver and improve end customer retention, cash flow, quality, processes to deliver cost efficiency and avoid credit losses via credit risk tools and account receivable services. This done via seamless integrations with customers, effortless contact and payment solution for end customers, and data as foundation for decisioning. We want to do more of that, obviously. Trust in the credit market is fundamental in any developed society. And without trust, every deal is complicated and opportunities are lost. A cornerstone in our belief is the idea that everyone can be trusted with a credit should be. We seek to enable buyers and sellers to meet and do their businesses. With passion and care, we create opportunities for people to take realistic chances and invest or acquire things that are important to them. We aim to tap into a working credit market with compliance, efficiency, and innovation. And we see potential, but we also see that we need to take responsibility. We originate from 4 local companies in 4 Nordic countries, brought together. We had no synergies, only our common foundation was actually ownership. That's all. Our journey has been bumpy. It has been changing over a period of time. But over the last couple of years, we have taken major leaps into consolidating ourselves as a true Nordic company. Our strategy, now focusing on common Nordic priorities, development and focus areas to secure market-relevant, robust and financially compatible solutions are in place. We have moved from a vivid vision, talking mainly about intentions, into a direction where our focus is on real business development and based on defined market needs. Our intentions are no longer words on a piece of paper, but something we care strongly about, that we deliver upon and want to implement and further develop together with our existing and also new customers, of course. We want to focus, deliver and develop on a common Nordic platform, but always having local needs and requirements covered as well. Targets are set and they are communicated. In all our markets, we see an increased focus to secure cash flow, to lower operational costs, and to simplify deliverables and integrations, whether it relates to number of vendors, systems, processes, etc. This in combination with rapidly changing expectations in our markets and completely new and much more challenging financial structures has set the agenda. Game plans need adjustments, and we must now adapt and deliver on new market premises. As is, or this is how we have always done, will not be good enough anymore. We must change, we need to accept to change, and we need to speed up change, and needed implementations to maintain and further develop our market position. Creating opportunities for people and businesses is, as mentioned, our mission. Taking this via our vision further into our strategy, then implementing in business plans, securing financing, involvement, development, and implementation is our current focus and journey, while having open and challenging dialogues with our customers. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, but we are dedicated and have set targets and timelines to secure deliverables. So with this in place, based upon market trends and needs, and then facilitated into our specific dialogues with existing and new customers, that's what's important. Investing in strategic dialogues on how we in best possible way can contribute and develop together and make a difference, that's important. Being curious, questioning mainstream, being a challenger and dare to question what has been in place and is working in order to secure improvement, that's important. And that is what we now aim for in our everyday cooperative dialogues. We have defined 3 development areas and 6 focus areas for us to deliver upon to secure Sergel being a relevant and competitive partner for our customers. And in today's seminar, we have actually focused on 2 of these, being AI and sustainability. Just to mention another one, obviously, needs to be data. Christine just talked about sustainability and why we all experience an increase in both needed focus, expectations, need for reporting and actions. And that are drivers. But from Sergel's perspective, we have taken a choice to invest in and also concentrate to develop and deliver upon these already. We defined already 2 years ago sustainability goals, having underlying focus areas related to customers, end customers, our employees, and also the environment. We are committed to our defined SBTs, and we perform internal surveys, as mentioned, having both inclusion and diversity as natural part of this already, and we will continue to invest to secure our ability to deliver on all defined goals related to sustainability as well. Our We Care is now really transforming into realistic and needed deliverables related to both you being our customers and your needs and responsibilities, and for our end customers as well, for which we educate our employees to help them back on track and into sustainable financial agreements that bring them out of unpaid debt and at the same time drives collection and cash flow for our customers. So going back to the dialogue earlier today about using AI in businesses and what we can expect, Sergel has taken a decision to continue implementing the use of AI in relevant and defined areas at a high speed. We have needed policies in place. We have defined quick wins and the most important and relevant implementation areas. And as mentioned earlier by Pamela and Arli as well, we have decided upon needed investments to secure Sergel being an efficient, competent, data-driven and competitive partner in the forefront of our industry, focusing on reducing customer churn via data and data-driven quality processes to secure high collections done with highest possible efficiency and providing data and insights to our customers and partners' offerings and scoring. We recognize that this is needed, and at the same time we are keen to secure that AI is not implemented just for the sake of AI, but to transform from manual low-speed to automated high-speed processes, having much better quality in our decisions based upon large amounts of data. This to help us free our well-qualified human colleagues from loads of manual tasks to secure time for quality counseling and decisions in our everyday work. We will increasingly deliver on these areas, and first external results will be seen in Q3, and then on a regular basis and on a frequent high speed going forward. We will secure that our collection agents can focus on helping out and having valuable dialogues with end customers, making a real difference. They will be able to do so as we will give them tools that decrease manual, time-consuming and inefficient tasks seeking information and needed data, and instead giving them time to help and advise and be present in the individual dialogues. That is actually what is important, and that is where we know we can make a difference. So, as mentioned by you, Christine, we are a game changer. We put action behind words, and we are committed. And we would really like to discuss this individually with our customers to find and deliver best possible common development areas based on specific needs and in alignment with our prioritized focus areas and optimizations. So, I guess with this, I say thank you. And then also just an apology, actually. I'm not a woman. Being a CEO, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Why don't you take a seat in the middle?
Yeah.
So I'll start with Henrik. Do you agree that there should be a bigger focus on social and economical sustainability?
Absolutely. And I mean, if we're taking the Kivra perspective into this, I mean, we are sustainable mission driven by the fact that we have digitalized physical sendouts into digital communication. And that, I mean, the credit services has been a key driver for that. That was the first type of viktighet distributed to Kivra. That was actually the credit notice that were restricted by laws, and that created a huge drive amongst all of the credit companies to send out these ones in a more sustainable way. And that has paved the way for a lot of new industries. So that's a key part of the journey we started. We have, over time now, built a truly sustainable business that are centered around giving a positive contribution in society. We're helping all our senders, for example, to see how much CO2 emissions we are helping them to save. We are driving our own operations with buying used servers in order to reduce the CO2 footprint. We have, I think, effective machinery on how we run our services and so on. But coming back to Christine's point, I think that this is just sort of scraping the surface of the impact we can do on society and how we can bring even more value back to society. If we can make sure that people can understand and consume the information that both authorities and companies are sending out in an easier and more comprehensive way, we can create amazing impact on society. And that is coming back to how can we help out to bring an even more inclusive and better society.
Klaus, you mentioned that Sergel has transformed to a Nordic company, coming back from different companies from the start. How do you think that will help in changing our sustainable plan?
Well, I think it can help in many ways, actually. Just thinking about what we have done on ourselves in each country, not really thinking about anything, just doing what we meant was important on each our planet, spending a lot of time working inefficient, not learning from each other, not sharing anything, not actually focusing on how we can drive business together with our customers and end customers and improving the way we actually work together, just to minimize everything that we have had. Transforming now, I see what is really happening for us now is that we are freeing a lot of information, a lot of knowledge. We are sharing best practice. You mentioned, for instance, A and B testing, which is something we have never done in all countries. That is something we now do, more or less, but it will be increasingly, just to mention one thing. We are spending a lot of time qualifying data now on a cross-border basis in order to secure that we can actually use data and much more data, which obviously is always important. That's also something. I need to mention as well, just having people having knowledge in different countries, compiling that knowledge is actually moving the company quite much ahead. And now we are talking both sustainability, we are talking AI, we are talking a lot of other areas. We're talking about moving from customer service to debt collection, because we are actually in a debt collection industry, which is important. And how can we do that? Both maintaining financial sustainability, as you have talked about, but also on the other hand, maintaining and improving the social sustainability, because it is important. We build on trust, as you mentioned as well, and I just said it briefly before. And if we are not good in actually filling that gap between buyer and seller, we will not have a purpose. It is important, and we need to do it in best possible way. And that's also why data and AI can help us out, actually, because we can then focus on the dialogue, as I mentioned before. I think that's really important. From an investment side, I would say it's even more important, actually, because we can see already that we drive costs down due to the fact that we are not doing the same stuff in 4 countries. We're actually doing the same stuff as one country, more or less, or we are on our way.
Christine, I promise to come back to double materiality.
Oh, great.
Because I think it's very interesting and necessary to look at the direct effects, but also the bigger picture. Would you like to give some examples on that and how that can play out and how that can change our view?
Well, I think one thing you're touching upon, and you posed the question to Klaus as well, is that with the double materiality, it's not just enough what we're doing as a company, but it's who we surround ourselves with and who we do business with. We talked about, I had on my slide, which customer selection. Who do we choose as our customers? Who do we choose as our suppliers? That comes more into play with the double materiality, because we're not going to change it. I mean, I'm ambitious, but I'm not that naive that I don't understand that Sergel alone is not going to change the entire sustainability agenda. But I think at the same time, spending more time not just checking boxes in the green area of sustainability, but understanding that it's us as humans that are having this impact, and we are the solution to changing that. And the S in the ESRS reporting has much more focus than it has prior. A lot of the other certifications, the ISO 14001, is much more on the environmental part, I think. You have also still the EU taxonomy as well, but I think that effort, we're not going to change anything unless we change our behavior. 1% improvement every day is what's going to move the needle. And I think that's been under-communicated. And I think the double materiality helps us there to realize what's needed and what's necessary.
And Klaus mentioned having open and demanding discussions with the customers to change your partners' views. And you talked about choosing customers.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work in your world? Do you have these demanding discussions?
Yes, to some extent. I think that many of our customers sees us as a way of transforming their own business and, reducing their CO2 footprint, and but also enabling a better and more sustainable service. If we take in the debt collection examples, we can clearly see that when you are notifying your end customer through Kivra, you are not only making sure that it's actually read and you reach out to the customer as such, but you also get paid faster. And that is not just important for your customers, but also for the end customer. The faster they pay out their debts, the less impact it will have on taking on more debts and so on. So we have, I think, throughout the chain, are a tool and a partner to be able to build a more sustainable business for all our customers. So that's what we're trying to help out with.
Klaus, you want to comment on that? Driving these discussions?
Just a few comments, actually, because I did mention this, and that's from a two-sided point of view, actually. Because one being, we have over a period of time, and that has been not only the last half year, but perhaps going years back, really, we as a company has been challenged from the customers. It's not always been easy, and has been very difficult because we acted and were kind of organized like we were. So really getting things done and delivered has been difficult, honestly speaking, going back. What we see now and what we want to do now is actually to be in the front seat and take that dialogue ourselves, be the one initiating this. You mentioned that as well, that perhaps when you have RFQs today, it's very often based on, let's say, material used for a lot of different stuff. It could be toilet paper one day, and then credit services another day, and then something else. And that's perfectly okay. But if you look into when ticking boxes off, it might be of interest actually to take a discussion related to what we've been discussing on sustainability side today. Because from our perspective, all the easy boxes, that is something we can do. But what is really interesting is perhaps more how we can develop together and how we can put both new ideas and real deliverables into this as well. And that discussion needs kind of be taken in front and not afterwards. So I really want us to be in the front seat and also taking these discussions proactively. So really changing from being reactively trying to respond and then moving ahead, being proactively and how to drive the discussion and putting the question, being the one perhaps even posting the unpleasant questions as well. Because why is it that this is important to you when we can see from other customers or from knowledge taken from all the lakes out there, why is it that you choose to do this when we can see this actually works and we can help you out? So that is really what we are aiming for here.
I just want to add as well, because I think in many ways, the part that I represent in sustainability on the people side and the culture side, that for me is often like a tank ship. It takes a very long time to move or stop or navigate. And the moment you realize you're in the wrong direction, it's almost like impossible to retract, right? whilst the green side, the food waste, the less paper, less travel, that's like a little laser boat. It changes quickly. It's easy to see. You talked about feeling the change. When we talk about mental coaching and the psychology of people, we need to feel the change. I need to feel that I'm getting healthier. Then I will keep investing in training because it's costing. And very often as a company as well, we are led by people, right? So it's the system one, the autopilot of the brain, and sustainability, the S, is actually about connecting system 2 in the brain, and that cost. So when I say I'm proud of mobilizing the organization, that means Klaus needs to give us a go in taking time to stop, pause, and reflect. What does this actually entail? But that means taking all our employees out of production. And in a busy time, we don't want to do that, but we know it's key and essential. And I think if you look at our competitors, and I believe, I've worked nationally and internationally for UNHCR, for big companies. Hardly anyone does that. And that's why I think it's like really essential. But it's time is money. And when you come down to it, and when you talk to the sharpest professors out there, even though we are at a time where we're probably at our smartest, and we'll be even more smart with AI, we're also the dumbest, if you ask me. Because we're watching the train crash, but we're not stopping it. We're just kind of going with it, because no matter how you twist or turn on it, sustainability and that impact, that costs. There is no quick return of investment on making the right choices. That's just a given, that's a premise. But the massive cost is so far away from us. That day we crossed the 7th planetary boundary, or the 8th, and then finally the 9th. It's too late to change, but I think that's like a mental exercise that we really haven't figured out yet. But luckily, I have a CEO that sees that.
I think it's a good thing, and the timing is right that we're saving 20 to 60% efficiency, so we can get more time to spend on this.
Push that into sustainability.
But I want to involve Arli just a quick moment more, because I see that AI can help us not only doing audits in sustainability, because it's complex. And we're talking double materiality. It's not just only the things straight in front of us. There are complex chains of events that happen if you do this, or if you don't do that, it will continue to grow in size. So talking about the audit part is one, but also can you train the AI systems to actually incorporate more sustainability in their thoughts when providing answers? Let's say we're having Microsoft Copilot, and I said, I want 50% sustainability in every answer.
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. I like that you asked that. I think it's really, there's something called the AI bias. I mean, we have to really think about that. All the information that we have out there is what's teaching the current AI. And so if all future information coming out is coming from AI, who's teaching the new AI models? It's AI itself again. So that's why the human part of being a part of that chain is very, very important. And I think that we have to act, as Christine says, and then look at that data and teach it and put it in and say, if you do this and this, these are the kind of things that can come out in terms of positive. And so I think that AI can play a really good role when it comes to sustainability, but we have to take an active part in it. We cannot just think that just because there is a lot of information out there that it will just know. I mean, we have to really be the human part of it. And I think it's a very important aspect of sustainability, of bringing AI into it, but also teaching it. And yes, you can do that. You should not let AI teach itself, because otherwise it's just going to be focusing on time is money and money, because unfortunately that's the kind of information out there. So we need to take a key role in that learning process of it. And comes back to, again, what we talked about before, regulations and other things to remove bias, but also I think increase awareness of sustainability within AI. Unfortunately, it's a topic that's not discussed enough, and I think that companies like Sergel are doing an amazing job intertwining these two topics and bringing it up to the table, and hopefully this will spark more discussions on all levels, from other big companies to political and in individual levels as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
So I'm going to finish off with the three of you. If you want to give your best advice to companies out there on getting ahead, to understanding more of how to change, let's start with Henrik. What would you say, this is key, do this tomorrow?
I think it's coming back to clearly define what we're trying to achieve, and coming back to the AI discussion earlier, not only define the impact we have within the company, but what can we actually do for the society? How can we make sure that we are a force that are contributing to a more sustainable society, rather than just focusing on reducing your own footprint? I think is the key for me.
Klaus?
From our perspective, I mean, we have now decided on the strategy. We have also decided how to prioritize. We have also put in the expectation on doing investments, because that is needed as well. So actually continuing down that road and just actually begin doing things. I think you mentioned it quite well. Actually, it's about doing stuff, not big stuff, but just get onto it and then keep up speed. And I think that the most important is to take the decision and just get going.
Arli?
I think exactly this. I mean, quick wins and motivation. So I think bringing people on board, and its energy and motivation is it's contagious. I mean, when I see somebody that's talking about, again, the gym factor, and talking about how good they feel about going to the gym, how good they feel about exercising, how much healthier they feel, then I say, maybe I should do it as well. So getting the whole company culture on board, educating them about sustainability and weaving that into data somehow, leveraging AI, for example, say, look what kind of impact we were able to do. We did this and this and this. That will get people talking about it with their friends over dinner, with other colleagues in other companies that probably work in also other positions, and then they will go and they will talk to somebody. I think that's a good factor of getting, spreading sustainability around. I would say really, again, going back to knowledge is power, and educating and data is key for motivation. So as Klaus says, small things, data, motivation, and then getting people engaged about it, because we need to move the needle, as Christine says.
Christine?
One thing. I would say not underestimate the human factor. Involve your organization. They really know best. Your employees, I do not know best when it comes to sustainability. It's each and every person in our company, and they are the force that's going to change things. And I think that's also relevant in how sustainability and AI works together, because you need to rig the organization for taking it in and making use of the tool. So when you are developing self-leaders, you also need to bring them on board, not just we've decided on a strategy, execute, and so-called implement. But you need to bring them in, get them to discuss and create that, I think maybe creating that arena where we stop, pause, and reflect together. What is the impact? What does it mean in concrete actions? And kind of, how do you eat an elephant, right? Because sustainability for me is a massive elephant, one bit at a time. And what does that mean? Don't make it too massive and big. It can be, for me, taking the train. That can be one thing that I'm focusing on. And that makes it more tangible. But then bringing the people together to see that and let them answer that, not answer for you. Because I'm not going to go to the gym, even if you're excited, if I don't feel it and I'm motivated. I own that motivation, and that's what all self-leadership is all about.
Do you think that we are in the game changer now?
We are.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I joined Sergel, and that's why I continue to be here. I have massive ambitions when it comes to sustainability. I have 2 girls pushing me. And I don't want to be in a company that's not taking it seriously and see that holistic approach, who sees the opportunities in AI and how that can also help us drive our sustainability agenda.
I just wanted to jump on what Christine said. I think is absolutely 100% right. And again, going back to what I said, single small steps moves miles. And when Sergel, you shouldn't underestimate that single small steps in this organization moves Sergel for miles, and then Sergel moves their customers for miles more. So think about that, how small steps can move us tens of hundreds of miles, and that's really then moving the needle. So I think that what Christine said is really, really an important factor for that each and every person feels it and is motivated to make those small steps, and together that will have, as I like to call it, the ripple effect, a small drop that just spreads.
So with that said, I hope you all got some good takeaways with you, something to work on in the coming months until we see you next time. So thank you all. First of all, Arli Mujkic, Pamela Clark, were you there? Henrik Lönnevi, Johan Gustafsson, Mattias Westman, Christine Bischoff. Thank you all for great presentations, and thank you all here in the audience and online, wherever you are, for participating and listening. See you soon. Thank you.